Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat petang buat semua. Ramadan Mubarak bagi mereka yang those observing the holy month of Ramadan. Semoga ibadah kita diterima. Saya bagi pihak pengajaran ingin I would like to welcome all of you here. We have with us Prof. Insinyur Ahmad Kamal Arifin, pengarah Pusat Pengajaran dan Pembangunan Kurikulum, dan juga penceramah jemputan kita Wan Muhammad Imran, Wan Muhammad Kamil dengan tajuk perkongsian yang agak penting, disrupting traditional model of teaching with remote learning. But before we begin, I would like to invite all of us to recite the Surah Al-Fatihah untuk memberkati majlis. Saya ingin menjemput Prof. Kamal untuk say a few words bagi pihak penganjur. Prof, are you there?
Ya, saya.
Okay, Prof.
Ya, terima kasih Dr. Rai. Terima kasih panel jemputan kita hari ini. Seperti yang dimaklumkan Dr. Rai tadi, di dalam webinar ini bukan memberi ceramah tetapi berkongsi bersama dengan rakan warga dan juga sama-sama kita menghayati apa yang diberikanlah. Jadi a short introduction. Selamat berwebinar ya. Terima kasih ahli panel jemputan kita hari ini.
Terima kasih, Prof.
Ya, silakan.
Terima kasih banyak, Prof. So kita ke program kita hari ini. So setakat ini kita ada 24 participant and still coming in. So we will start and we hope that others will join in later. So saya mulakan dengan sedikit pengenalan kepada penceramah jemputan kita, Saudara Wan Muhammad Imran. A few important things that I want to kind of touch on. First of all, his area bidang beliau ialah bidang astronomy dan astrophysics. Adalah pensyarah di Jabatan Fizik Kegunaan, Fakulti Sains dan Teknologi Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia. Ijazah muda dalam bidang fizik dengan kepujian dari Imperial College London, dan ijazah sarjana sains dalam astrophysics dari University College London. Beliau kini dalam proses akhir menyiapkan tesis PhD-nya di Raja Zahra Sofia Center for Advanced Studies on Islam, Science and Civilization di Universiti Teknologi Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. Dan tajuk tesisnya agak really interesting, at least for me. Carl Sagan and the Development of Astrobiology. Salah satu information penting yang saya dapat daripada biodatanya ialah beliau juga kini memegang portfolio penting sebagai ketua negara untuk pertandingan Olimpiad Fizik Antarabangsa sejak tahun 2010. So beliau aktif melatih para pelajar sekolah menengah dan pra-universiti ke pertandingan Olympiad Physics International sejak 2010. So it's an honor to have somebody of your caliber berkongsi dengan kita pagi petang ni. So tanpa melengah masa, kita jemput saudara Imran untuk mengkongsikan kupasan beliau yang bertajuk Disrupting Traditional Model of Teaching with Remote Learning. Dengan segala hormatnya.
Terima kasih, Prof. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dan selamat petang. Pertamanya Imran ingin mengucapkan terima kasih kepada Pusat Pengajaran UKM kerana telah sudi menjemput Imran untuk berkongsi sedikit pandangan tentang pendidikan jarak jauh. Seperti mana yang Prof. Rai sebutkan, saya merupakan pensyarah dalam bidang fizik di Fakulti Sains dan Teknologi. Jadi mungkin saya patut buat disclaimer awal yang saya tidak dilatih secara formal dalam bidang pendidikan. Yang pertama. Yang kedua, mungkin saya patut beritahu juga macam mana isu ni boleh sampai ke pengajaran, Imam ada membincangkan tentang bagaimana kita sebagai pensyarah boleh menguruskan peralihan daripada pengajaran bersemuka kepada pengajaran jarak jauh. Dan Imam bincang dengan beberapa orang pensyarah fizik, kemudian Imam kerap juga berbincang dengan Dr. Azmin. Kemudian Imam kongsikan slide ni dengan Dr. Azmin. Lepas tu Dr. Azmin kata, boleh tak kalau nak kongsikan? Kita boleh, dengan syarat ianya perkongsian lah kiranya. Maksudnya ini satu, menganggap ni macam satu I am in the company of those who knows their stuff better than I do, and I'm just throwing some ideas in the hope that we can begin a conversation. Because I think what I admire about pengajaran is how fast this thing, it began as an idea and then it becomes a conversation, a discussion. I think if we can make that distance as short as possible, I mean, if you can give the platform for lecturers to just so that share their ideas, if you can facilitate that, I think we are doing a great service to UKM. We are improving its quality of teaching and learning. Right? So let me just start by just describing what we will be discussing about. So I will start with, okay, so this is the content. Um, I will start with the why. I will give a brief overview of how this whole discussion, this whole reflection came about. And then I will talk about what is it that I have thought about and I have discussed with some of my colleagues. And then finally, I'll just end with, I'll just share a few things that I have done with my students to facilitate their learning in this PKP situation, right? I just want to draw your attention to the fact that the way I've arranged this presentation, I'll start with the why and then the what and then the how. Usually, when I do it like this, I usually tell my students, if I were to give this presentation to my student, I will put the why the last, because usually students can't be bothered to know why we do something. They just want to know, okay, what is supposed to do. So the way I do it like this, so if you're not interested to know how it came about, then you can just skip until I started talking about the what and the how. Right? That is the concept. So moving on, before we talk about the topic itself, I think we have to remember that a large part of our identity is as an educator. And as educators, we deal with knowledge on a regular basis. We are responsible to cultivate it. We're responsible to transfer it. We are responsible to disseminate it. We're responsible to spread it. We're responsible to defend it. And because knowledge is not one of those things that are tangible, sometimes it is very difficult for other people to see what exactly we are doing. So we will have people who think that, oh, you are a lecturer, you are a teacher, and you don't go to school, you go to university, therefore, you must be lounging at home. I think one of the biggest misconceptions about teaching is that people think that they don't see the amount of hard work that goes into preparing a lesson. To me, I always tell my students, I told them that teaching is like performing on a stage. You might see the performance to be effortless, but behind that performance, you have no idea how long it takes to sort of fine tune everything. And I think we don't talk among ourselves enough about the effort that about the effort that each of us put into preparing our lessons. And I hope that the webinar will provide that platform. So whether we teach face to face or whether we teach via online facilities, at the end of the day, our job is to make sure that our students obtain that knowledge. Right? Ultimately, our responsibility is to the knowledge that we are transmitting to our students. Of course, we can administrators can try to monitor, when, how many times the lecturer access your portfolio, how many times the students access your portfolio. But I think ultimately we have to ask ourselves, are we doing good enough for our students? And are we doing good enough to the responsibility, to the duty that we have as educators? Right. So that's why I put these two quotes here. And I think this sentiment is not Islamic centric. I think all cultures, all great civilizations, I think they honor those with knowledge, and they honor those who strive for knowledge. So I think if we have that in mind, we will become less defeatist in our attitude. When we have to do something extra in teaching and learning. Right. So I'll start with the autobiographical note. The title that Prof. Rai suggested, because when you look at the title, I'm never very good at giving titles to my presentation, so it's very bland. She suggested the title, Disrupting the Traditional Model of Teaching. And I like the title a lot because I think it captures it gives a sense of how radical it is, what we are doing now when we do remote teaching and learning. If we think back, let's say if we think back of all the things that we used to do as lecturers before this, um, let's say last semester, some of us might not imagine that we will be recording our lectures and delivering online. Some of us might not even dream that we will have to sit in front of a screen, and we have the gift or the capacity to actually hear ourselves talk in front of the screen. And sometimes I tell my colleagues, I said that cuba fikir balik semester lepas berapa banyak perkara yang kita rasa kita tak mampu buat, tapi sekarang ni kita nak tak nak kita terpaksa buat, dan sekarang kita dapati yang sebenarnya kita boleh buat, dan kita boleh buat dengan agak bagus. Dan itu sepatutnya membuatkan kita jangan meragui kebolehan kita untuk menyesuaikan diri dengan keadaan yang mendatang. I think at the end of the day, we are interested to convey that knowledge, and we will do anything to sort of convey that to our students, to make our students understand. But the word disruption, I think the word disruption sometimes it strikes terror in some people's hearts because they think, oh, this disruption, therefore everything that they know before is irrelevant. But I would like to say that actually, I think the savior or the fallback for us now is not so much technology. Of course, technology helps a lot. But I think the fallback, the savior for us now in this era of remote teaching and learning is what we already know about teaching. I think each and every one of us knows the good practices in teaching and learning. We know our students. We know, how to teach our students, and we should never let anyone say otherwise, and not say and not be afraid if somebody say, oh, you are not using so and so technology, therefore you are not a good teacher. I think we have to realize that we have been teaching for quite some time. We know our stuff, and we just have to make some modifications in this new situation. So how did I begin thinking about this? As I said, there were two factors. The external factor was the fact that we have to transition to remote learning because of the COVID-19 virus. So we had to teach remotely because that is the only way in which we can continue the education of our students. Uh, you know, in the in the era where we have to distance ourselves from each other. So the external factor is the fact that we are living in an era where we have a pandemic. The internal factor is more of my concern as an educator. And as I said, I think one of the biggest things that we as educators think about is, are we doing enough for our students? How many times do we feel, when you teach a topic and then at the end of the class, when once we stepped out of the classroom, we thought that, oh, I should have said point A, point B before point A, and then I should have used another example. How many times do we experience the situation where we could have done better for our students? And I think that concern comes from a place of empathy because we have been students before, and we know what our students are going through. And I think if you want to be a good educator, we have to remember what it was like to be a student before that. And then secondly, it came from a lot of research that have been done about teaching and learning. We know what are the best practices in teaching and learning. To do interleaving, to do reviewing, to do to, to make the lesson interesting through games. These are not just anecdotal ideas. These are ideas that have been backed up by empirical evidence. So if we were to go on teaching whilst ignoring what the research in pedagogy has been telling us, how can we make our teaching better? I think we are doing a disservice to our students. So those are the two factors that led me to think about this, the external factor and then the internal factor. And then what did I set out to achieve by by reflecting about this is first to manage the transition. Uh, I think at the very minimum we want to replicate the face-to-face learning and teaching that we have done previously, and we want to transfer that. We want to find some way to replicate on an online platform. Uh, but I think more than that, we also want to take advantage of all the extra things that you can do with online learning. Um, I told a colleague of mine, I said that look, I one of the nice things about online learning, online teaching and learning, is that now I find it easier to share materials such as videos or applets or simulation. I find it much more easier to sort of insert that into my classes. If you were to do it previously, you have to make sure that the classroom has a computer, you have to bring a laptop, have to do the slides. But nowadays, with online learning, that is much more easier, and we don't have to rely on the slides anymore as the main method of delivery. We can just give a simulation to our students and with a set of questions and tell them to play with the simulation and report to me what you have learned. So I think if we just try to replicate what we have done before, then we are missing this big picture of online learning whereby you can use applets, you can use simulation, you can communicate with experts in the in experts in fields from other countries. Uh, the possibilities are limitless. Once, so apart from just them before, I think we should also enrich our teaching and learning through online. Um, and and I think we 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 also want to avoid merely replicating what we have done before. I think yesterday a student of mine shared a Twitter. I think it was posted by a teacher who found out that one of his students disliked the class. Students like to share, pensyarah ni, da, 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 da. And then I told the student, what do you think of the tweet? And then he said that, the student might have a point. And then I, then I told him, well, if I was a younger lecturer, I might be offended by the tweet by the student because I would take it personally. I would say that the student is ungrateful. He doesn't, they don't know the amount of work that we do. But I think after several years, I've reached a point where whenever I read something like that, I tell myself, well, maybe the student has a point. As in, I mean, if we think back of the classes that we have attended, how many of the classes that we have attended are really engaging, are really, interesting and meaningful? And if our students have to suffer through that kind of classes, then we cannot blame them if they voice out their frustrations like that. So that is why maybe with this remote learning and teaching, it forces us to not just replicate what we have done before, but to ask ourselves, okay, what are the good bits that we want to retain from before? What are the bad bits that we want to change? What are the ugly bits that we want to sort of, to beautify a bit? So it is not just a matter of just copying what we've done before. Or previously, if I give a lecture for 2 hours and then give assignments, okay, that is what I'm going to do for online learning. I think at the minimum level, yes, that is okay. But if we just do that, then you're just using a slice of what online learning can offer. So that's number two. That's number three. Sorry. And then my expectations for this webinar, from this webinar, I I'm just throwing my ideas, and I look forward to any comments or modifications or censure, or or someone were to violently disagree with what I said. Then it is okay, because it is meant to be a conversation. Um, um, Sometimes we like to say, oh, there is a one size fits all model for education. I think there's no one size fits all model for education. One size fits only one size. You know, and then if we treat every student equally, we are setting ourselves up for every student to have varying level of mastery. Because if you treat the poor and the advanced students equally, then you should not be surprised if the advanced student were to perform better than the poor student, because you treat them equally. So we have to I think we have to move away from this idea that, well, we should treat students equally. If we teach the same materials for the poor students, we should do that for the advanced students. Um, so that's my expectation. Just a sharing session of ideas. Right? So let me just get into the meat of it. So when we think about transitioning from remote teaching and learning, I think we should recall what what are the main stages in a in a traditional lesson. So I have listed, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. Right. So you start with engagement in what is it that you're telling them. Right? And then you get to the exploring. This is a bit the student, what should they know about a particular topic, and then they so this is where you give exercises, assignments, or quiz or whatever. Uh, you have to get here. I use repeat because this is a phrase I took from was saying that, well, if you give feedback, feedback is usually a comment that has happened. Yeah, at the end, but probably you want to give feedback which the student can use to improve the next round. Yeah. So when we give feedback, it is because I think if we tell the students, okay, for this assignment you did this wrong. If the student cannot see how they can improve from that, then they feel that they have been punished for some mistake, and they will have no idea how to move on, how to improve themselves. And for this bit on feed forward, or this is where we give diagnostic or formative assessments, low stakes, which allows the students to sort of prepare and correct their mistakes. And then you get to the demonstration part. This is where the students can prove to others that they have mastered a certain topic. Usually, for this part, we give exams or final exams, or final year project, whereby our notion is that, well, if the student get 90% in that final exam, it means that they have mastered the topic. Uh, so to us, the way the student can demonstrate their mastery is by by answering the final exam of the project. And then after the final examination, or after the demonstration phase, there should still be some kind of feed forward, because usually the course that we teach will have its continuation for our students. Say, oh, sir, we do not know, why do we have to take this course, sir? What how are we going to do it? How are we going to use it, next semester or next year? Uh, Funny thing is, we expect the student to know. We expect the student sort of, we have given you the structure of the program. You should know, okay, for first year you should take A, B, C. For second year you should take D, E, F. And we sort of the student to be able to see the journey start. But from my experience, students don't see that. Yang kena, we have to tell them, okay, previously you learned topic A, now you're learning topic B. The bit in topic B which you're learning now, no, you don't forget it. You're going to use it for C. And that takes a lot of, you sort of have to remind them again and again and again. Students,
help them see the big picture.
yeah. We might see their journey as a 3-year or 4-year thing, but I think for students nowadays they say, okay, what lecture do I have today? Okay, then once they say finish, then they move on to tomorrow. Okay, what lecture do I have tomorrow? So to teach a student to think long term, that is something that we have to do as educators. It's not something that we expect. No, it's not something that we should expect them to know already from school or from parents. These are not taught. So anyway, so these are the main stages in a lesson. The next thing, what we want to think about is, okay, out of these stages, how many actually occur in the classroom and how many occur outside the classroom? Which stage must be conducted inside the classroom and which stage can be conducted outside the classroom? Um, the way I've highlighted this is that the blue bits are the bits where I think should be done inside the classroom. For instance, the delivery of content and then assessments and then final exams and then assessments. So these blue bits usually are done inside the classroom. But then this bit, engagement, this practice, this is usually we don't have the time in the classroom. So it's not that we don't want to do it, but because we know that if you were to spend too much on trying to persuade the student that it's important, we won't have time to do, exercises afterwards because we are chasing to cover the content.
Yeah.
But you see, I think this is where the student and our expectations sort of switch.
Right.
To us, we expect the student to do the engagement, to do the practice bit, once they exited. But for students, to them, okay, for this course, what they have to do is just the blueprint. Okay, you attend class, and then you give your assignments, and then you for your exam, and that's it. But for us, we know that you have to do practice on your own. You have to study on your own. You have to discuss on your own. And when you have that mismatch between our expectation and the students' expectation, then I think we start to get conflict. The lecturer thinks that the students are not working hard enough, and the students think that the lecturers are giving them more work than they're supposed to do, than they're supposed to do. So, and I think this issue of differences in what we expect the student to do and differences in what the student expect of us, I think it becomes much more important when it comes to remote learning because the traditional expectations are no longer there, and sort of everyone is uh, trying to grapple with this new situation. Um, so nowadays, when we have to do remote learning, now all the stages have to be done remotely. The engagement bit, the exploring bit, the practice bit. Um, we have to do it remotely, but then we have to maintain points of contact with the student. If why did I say points of contact? Because you we are not expecting the students to be in front of the computer all the time and be ready to sort of entertain our 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 lessons or assignments. So as long as there are moments in a week where we get to know the students and what they're doing and their progress, I think that should be enough. But I think some students they tend to go it too far. From based on my experience, when you ask students to submit assignments in the portfolio and then you set the deadline to be 12 midnight. And then some students they cannot upload and then they incorrectly uploaded certain part. Students will actually message you at 1 a.m. morning, sir, I cannot access the submission anymore. And then you have to ask yourself, are you going to are you going to, wake up and then go to your computer and attend to them? Uh, I think this is one of the area where we have to discuss further the boundaries. We still set the same boundaries, or do we, you know, is it okay for students to ask questions outside office hours? There is there's one book in pedagogy. It talks something about naked teaching. Naked teaching in a sense there is no boundary, so to speak, when the student can sort of contact. Uh, Whether we can go that far, I think that is a personal choice. But still, it is nice to have a conversation around this, because I think if this is not if this is not elaborated, I think it can cause a lot of conflict and misunderstanding between the students and the lecturer. Um, so yeah, when you have a disruption like this, then we have to recalibrate the students' expectations and the instructors' expectations. I think that has to be done first. We have to make sure that the student and instructor are on the same page. If not, um, then we will be like two ships in the night, then just passing each other. We might be attending the same online lesson, but then the student can switch off or can look at us and then not care. I mean, basically it is this. I think if we don't calibrate our expectations, then the student can bring their passivity
Yeah.
from face-to-face learning into online learning. So you have the same thing again.
Yeah.
And that has happened. There are students who don't show up for online classes,
Right.
and that causes some discontentment among the lecturers. But then at the end of the day, you ask yourself again: did you tell the student that they are supposed to show up? If they don't know, then then they might not know. To them, they might think that, well, since it is recorded anyway, and I can watch it anytime I want, so why should the lecturer make a fuss if I don't show up? So those are the things that I think we have to bear in mind when it comes to remote teaching and learning. So I'll just move on to this. In my abstract, I said that remote teaching and learning is an inversion of face-to-face learning. What I try to represent here is this inverted pyramid. The size of each layer represents the amount of time you sort of have to spend on that. So if in traditional instruction, the learning is driven by the instructor. The instructor will decide what is it that the student is supposed to learn, when they're supposed to take the exams, what questions are they supposed to do. And for a traditional model, uh, I think the anchor will be the face-to-face lectures. We get to meet the students 2 or 3 hours per week. And then you have tutorials and office hours. That is slightly, less common, but still, you have this. And then the students might have peer learning groups. They might, meet at night and discuss among the library. And then, as far as the learning material is concerned, usually the lecturers will decide what is it that they're supposed to read. Okay, you read from chapter so and so, or you do questions so and so. So, in the traditional model, the learning is driven very much by the instructor. But when it comes to remote teaching and learning, to my mind, the pyramid just becomes inverted. Um, in place of face-to-face lectures, you have asynchronous recorded lectures. If the student is lucky, they might get online live or online synchronous lectures. But then if not, then they get only to watch pre-recorded material.
Right.
If they if the lecturer records with his face, then the student can see the face of the lecturer. If not, then the student just see the voice of the lecturer. So it is very impersonal.
Right.
I don't know. I I find asynchronous lectures to be very impersonal, and I think some students do as well. In place of tutorials and office hours, now you have virtual meetings, whereby we sort of meet through Teams or WhatsApp or Telegram or whatever. And then in place of face-to-face peer learning groups, now they have online peer learning groups. That is, the students get together through WebEx and they teach each other. Itu pun, if they can find the time to sort of, communicate with each other. If not, then, if one of them is staying, in an area where the internet connection is poor, then they cannot do that. And I think students miss that social interaction that they have with their peers. Um, because I think we have to remember that the university and the schools, these are not just places to deliver content. there are other stuff that the student get from being at university, from being in the lecture hall, from being in the lab. They get to see, the personal social interaction, which forms a big part of learning. And suddenly, remote learning, that whole chunk is gone, and the
Right.
student is left on their own devices, and they have their own distractions at home. It is very difficult for the student. If you really think about it, it's very difficult for the student, and we should be I think we should be proud if our students can still, soldier on and still, go on with this, teaching and learning. I think if we were put in their situation, there's no guarantee that we will perform just as well as them. But
I agree.
yeah,
I
because
agree.
this is the challenge of their generation,
Yes.
and we cannot pretend to know what they are going through, but we can
Yep.
sort of try to help them the best we can.
Yep.
And finally, this is what I like about online learning. If previously the students are somewhat limited by the materials that they can read, nowadays with online learning, it is our job, at least for me, my job is not so much to tell them, okay, you read from this to this, or you read from this book, or you do this exercise. I just give a list, a buffet list of materials. Okay, these are the stuff, videos and simulations and apps and text. You can choose when to read it. You can choose how much you want to read it. So
Right.
rather than this is more like an a la carte menu where there are, this text but that you must read with this particular video. Nowadays it's more like a buffet. You go to YouTube, you type whatever topic you want, and then you have to choose. The student have to choose what is it that you want.
You curate your
Yes.
learner's experience.
Yep, true.
Mm.
And I think if you want to go even further, we can even assign that to students as assignments. For this topic, okay, this group of students, okay, you choose 5 texts which you
Right.
think all of us should read, and then
Right.
and that in itself can be a form of assessment if you want to make it into assessment.
Right. You
Uh,
empower them that way.
yeah.
Mm.
Opportunities which I think we don't have before, or maybe we are too afraid to sort of let go because we
Mm.
think, oh, if we let the students sort of design their own lesson, then how they will not cheat, they will not slack, they will not they will understand what is it that they're supposed to understand. But well, education runs on trust. The We trust our student, and the student must trust us. And perhaps the biggest challenge of remote teaching and learning is not so much the technology, but how can we learn to trust our students, and how can students continue to learn to trust us, right? um, because just as there are non-performing students or underperforming students, there are also underperforming teachers. There are teachers who who think, oh, this is all tedious, I'm not going to do it.
Yep.
There are that is another side of the story that we sometimes don't talk about. This bit about a wealth of learning material, I think this is such a wonderful opportunity for the student. And it is joyous to be student nowadays because in the when I was learning physics and as an undergraduate, if I want to understand a difficult formula, I have to follow the argument one by one. There will be 10 lines of equation, and I sort of have to slug to go through everything. Nowadays, there is animation. There's animated formulas which dances and sings and make it interesting. And I keep having to remind my students. I say that look, you have so many resources at your disposal. If you don't like lecturer A, you can go to lecturer B. If you don't like lecturer B, you can go to lecturer C. Right? There is no excuse not to know, basically.
Right.
It is up to the student. Uh, okay, so that is inversion, and I think we have to bear in mind that this inversion is happening underneath all the hoo-ha about technology and about assessment and about everything. Um, so I said earlier that now all the stages have to be done out remotely. So what I did here is just to give some suggestions on how we can leverage technology for each of the stages. So let me just go through one by one. Um, for the engage part, this is the bit where we have to convince the student why they should learn something. You can begin with a mystery or current news that is related to the topic. So, for instance, I teach modern physics. I teach physics. So, let's say I'm going to teach them about the theory of relativity. So, I can start this by asking to watch a YouTube video that makes that claims that it is possible to travel faster than speed of light. Is it just this is just a hope. This is just a hope to get the student interested. And there are many ways to do this engagement nowadays. You can ask them to watch a video, you can ask them to do a simple reflection, you can ask them to play a game, you can ask them to um, read news material. So, but I think this bit here must be done because if we don't tell the students why they should learn, what is it they were going to teach them, then I think they would treat it as a chore. And once they have that mindset in mind, the emotion in mind, I think it's very difficult to do the rest of the stuff here. I think we should not forget that emotion can sabotage learning if the student is couldn't be bothered. Then you can give them as many stuff as you want, as many materials as you want, but if you can't get them interested, then there's no point. So that's for the engagement part. For the explore bit, um, this is where I think there's a lot of discussion about this stage. Some lecturers, they will replicate the lecture that they have done before. So if they give a 1 hour lecture, then they will record the lecture, they will record themselves giving a lecture, and then they will ask the students to watch the lecture. That is fine. But for me personally, one of the jarring things for me when I started this online learning was to listen to my own voice. Uh, it was so peculiar, it was so weird. And I told my students, why didn't you tell me that my voice is so annoying sometimes?
No,
Um,
it's not. It's
I
fine.
mean, for me, and so for me personally, I don't record a full length lecture
Right.
because some of my students have difficulty in accessing this material because of internet and everything.
Right.
So what I did mainly is just to give a big picture of the topic to the students. I give them the lesson plan. Okay, these are the learning outcomes. These are the materials, either video or text. These are the questions that you can attempt. What I did in one of my courses is to use Google. Google is
Yep.
a software for mind map.
Yep.
So I use that to sort of just map out the the, the main topics that I'm going to teach. So the student have a mental map of what is it that they have to learn and where is the starting point and where's the end point.
Mm.
Um, and then I did that for the first week, and then for the second week, for the first week I prepared the mind map beforehand, and then for the second week I prepared the mind map uh, live with the students. So we share the Google together, and then I sort of um, um, uh, unfold the mind map one by one. For the third week, for this week, I told them to prepare the mind map beforehand, and then bring it to class. Or for another class, what I did was I construct the mind map together with the student. So that
Can you just ask a question
yeah.
since there are no questions from the
Mm.
participants? Do you mean like every week you prepare a different lesson plan with learning outcome for that particular
Yeah,
week?
yeah, for the particular. So
I mean,
I
that
can.
particular week there's like maybe one topic,
Mm-hmm.
maybe one
So
learning outcome.
I can show you the worksheet that I prepared. So
Please.
basically, it is just a worksheet. So the student work through the worksheet, and if they have any questions, that they can ask during the office hours or during the
Right.
online lesson.
Cool.
So I basically shifted all the stuff that the student can do on their own outside the online discussion, online session. So
Mhm.
during the online session, I am there to answer their questions. I am there to reinforce certain things that they have.
Right.
Um, so that is for the exploring the this stage. another point I want to make, I want to suggest to assign reading from open source textbook. There are many open source textbooks nowadays, and they are of reasonable quality. Um, I think one nice thing about open source textbooks is that the student don't have to download it; they can just read it online. And then there's no copyright issue, there's no privacy issue, and some of these open source textbooks allow the students to sort of uh, to annotate, to add comments, to add materials. So the the student not only can refer to the textbook, but the student can sort of improve. The student can add new material to the textbook. So this is for the second stage. For the third stage, for practice, uh, we just simply have to provide opportunity for students to enforce their knowledge and skill. So for this, you can just assign exercises from question bank or from textbooks or from exercise book. This is not, I think the issue here is to make sure that the students do it, but that's an issue of integrity. How do you make sure the students actually do it? Um, which goes back to what we said earlier about trust. I think if we can get the student to realize how important this is and how much we are investing in them, then that becomes an intrinsic motivation for them to just do that. And I think if you present the material interesting enough, you don't have to sort of keep pushing them to do it. Uh, but that goes into this engagement phase here. Right? And then for number 4, to diagnose and to remedy misconception. For this, you can hold office hours, virtual office hours, using Zoom or Teams. What I did for my courses is I told my students, okay, I'll be available from, let's say, from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you have any questions, then you can you can just call me up, either through Teams or through Zoom or through Telegram. So the line of communication between my student and myself is always there. If they can't reach me through Teams, they can reach me through Telegram. Whether or not I reply immediately, that is another issue. But I want the student to know that if they have a problem, that they can communicate with me immediately. I don't want the student to feel that we have abandoned them, because it is very. Tara, you have muted your microphone.
Sorry. No, they don't need to sign up for consultation during those hours. You
No,
are
yeah.
standing for them to communicate with you
Yeah,
in case
yeah.
they need.
Yeah. So because and I can do that because I have moved most of the stuff that usually I will have to teach them in class. I've moved that offline. So
Right.
you read, you study on your own, and then you come to me with questions or with misconceptions, and then I will help you. Which I think that is our role. I mean, our job is not just to deliver content. There are, that can be automated nowadays. But what the student want from us is our expertise, our experience, and the student can the personal touch, and that they can get the office hours, the virtual office hours. A friend of mine uses voicemail. He uses software called Voxer. I've not tried it before, but I think the way it works is sort of leave messages.
Right.
So it's like a voice box. It's like a voicemail box. So you can sort of read it as whenever you want. Um, he did that because he says that, well, for him, he wants the student to know that he wants the student to not be so quick in
You know?
not be in giving up. Yeah, basically. I mean, he wants the student to, okay, if you don't understand something, okay, you ask 3 of your friends first, and then if you still can't figure it out, then only you tell me. So
Right.
to him, he takes that as a learning outcome for his course. So
And
he used that. Yeah.
strategy, because you create a community of learners amongst
Yes.
your own
Yeah.
student population. That's brilliant.
True. Because when you do remote teaching and learning, if previously teaching is very lecture centric, I think the student wait for us to tell them what to do.
Yep.
Nowadays, it becomes much more democratic in the sense that the students can go, if they don't have to come to us, come running to us immediately. They can ask their peers, they can search for information online. And I think when 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 they go into the real world, that is what you have to do as well. I mean, when once they started working, there is no one person that will tell them, okay, this is what you have to do. They have to they have to scour the information on their own. So to me, this is a very good, soft skill for them to be taught. So that's the diagnosing and the remedying misconception bit. For the demonstration bit, this is where you provide opportunity for students to demonstrate their mastery. Um, there are many ways of doing this. You can ask them to complete online game and then just screenshot your final score, or complete an online game and then write a reflection about your experience playing that game. You can ask them to perform an investigation using an applet or simulation. This is mainly for practical courses which previously the students need to be in the lab to do, but now because they can't enter the lab, therefore they have to find some other ways. For physics, what I did, because I teach a first year lab as well, so what I did was to ask them to download an applet which transforms their phone into a data collection thing, so they can collect information about temperature and pressure and acceleration and speed. And then I'll just give them, an open-ended question. Okay, determine what factors influence the, for instance, investigate the reflectivity of different objects in your house. So the student have to design their own experiment, have to figure out, okay, what are the variables that they need to investigate, collect the data, and then present their report. What I like about that is that if you were to do it in the lab, what I will normally do, okay, first I will teach you how to design an experiment for this week. And then next week, okay, I will teach you how to do the data collection. And then for the week after that, I will teach you how to do the presentation. But now, I will just give them an open-ended question. And then the student have to use all those skills at the same time. And I think it allows the student, it tests the student more, as opposed to, you just do one bit, and then you do one bit, and then you do one bit. Some students, of course, they require guidance to do this, but some students, especially the good ones, they can go through this very fast and they enjoy it because for the first time they don't have to wait for the lecture. Okay, first you do this, and then you do this. They can just do, they can just perform the experiment, and then and then they show the experiment to me, and then I will have a discussion with them. Okay, what you did is okay, what you did is not okay. Uh, I think if we do that, then we treat the students as adults. At the university level, they should be at the level where they can plan and design and perform their own experiments. They should not be at the level where they still have to wait for us to tell them, okay, you do this, you do this, you do this. And of course, occasionally, if you have to teach a very specific skill, then you might still have to guide them, uh, you know, to, um, to maybe to recorded lectures. But then maybe we don't have to do as much of that. Maybe if previously 14 weeks, 14 we have 14 weeks of lectures. Nowadays, with remote learning, maybe 14 weeks, maybe half of it you can make it much more independent. And the other half maybe much more dependent on us. So it allows us that flexibility, which which I like because it forces me as a lecturer to think of other ways. Okay, how can I teach my students? How can I evaluate my students? How can I assess my students? And I think it makes you grow as a lecturer. I would never dream of giving my first year students an open-ended experiment before because I've already had a plan. Okay, for first week I will do this. For second week I will do, but the PKP comes and then all of that out of the window, right? And then you start to ask yourself, okay, what is it that you want the students to learn, and then how can we reconstruct everything there? And it is a learning curve for me, but I think Alhamdulillah, it is a good experience.
How are the students responding to it though? Imran, like so far, how are the students respond? Am I mute? No. Can you hear
No,
me?
yeah.
Yeah. How are they responding to you? Because you, like you said at the beginning, you had a plan. Week one, week
Mm-hmm.
two, week three. Now you're having a very immersive kind of a strategy where you just give them an open-ended question. They need to pull from all the resources, all the things that they learned. How are they responding to that? I mean, is it not overwhelming for them? To
Yeah, for the first 2 weeks, it was, I think, what I did was I asked them first. I did a poll in the classroom. I said that, look, guys, is it okay if instead of teaching you what I'm supposed to teach you and the like for electricity and how to construct circuit, is it okay if I were to just give you an open-ended experiment? I'm still teaching you laboratory skills, but I'm not teaching laboratory skills just specific for for this topic. But I'm teaching. If previously they are, let's say, they are only doing experiments in electricity and magnetism, now they have the opportunity to do experiments in across the different branches in physics. So I asked them that, and they said, they are willing to give it a try. So I said that, well, if you want to do it, then I have several experiments which I can give you. So they of course, the first, I think the second week when I first got the yeah light bulb, I was like, why, because they are not used to this kind of very open-ended, very immersive. So the quality suffers.
right,
Um,
right,
but but I tell the students, look, it is better for me to know this now, so
right.
that I still have time to
Feed forward.
yeah to correct it.
Mm.
Um, so one of the things that another thing I like about this remote lesson thing is when you upload assignments on Camfolio, when you grade them, the students can see our comments and our
Right,
feedback immediately. Uh, I that was one of the things that I was not able to do before because the student will hand in late, and then the student, and then you have to collect the assignments, and then you have to find a place to sit and there's so many distractions. But now, as soon as students send in their assignments, you can just grade it immediately, and the student get the feedback immediately,
right.
and they like it because to them they know that what they are doing will be made accountable to them. I mean, they are accountable for what for their assignments. They cannot just keep on submitting poor work
Mm.
and then and just hoping for a pass. They
Mm.
know that if they were to submit a poor work, then they will get a long comment from me. And if they were to repeat that mistake again, then I will call them up, or I will hound them after that. So I think I like the fact that I'm able to give immediate feedback to the students,
Right.
and that is one of those things that technology allows me to do, that you can fully allows me to do.
So
Uh,
kudos to UK Folio then, huh?
yeah, yeah, because when you we can set you can follow to remind us when to
Yep.
grade. So um, that is good for us as lecturers, because as educators, because we tend to forget that apart from delivering content, our job is also to give feedback to
Right.
students regarding their work. If you just deliver content without telling the student, okay, what you're doing is okay or not okay, then you cannot blame the students if they
Absolutely.
remain at the same path.
Absolutely.
Um, so yeah, it is an experiment. When I mean, I keep telling my student, I'm giving you this thing, this giving you an open experiment is in itself an experiment. I have no idea how it will turn out.
Right.
But then if you're willing to work with me, then we can figure this out together.
So,
I've never done virtual experiments.
so it's experiential for you as a
Yeah,
teacher, for them as the student of
yeah.
your class. Brilliant. Brilliant.
Because I told them, look, because the student will spend 3 hours doing experiments every week previously in the lab. And then I asked them, if you think about it, how many of that 3 hours you actually spend actually doing experiment?
Right.
You enter the lab, and then you only then you want to read the instruction, only then you want to ask me what to do, and maybe you spend only one hour doing the actual data collection, which you are supposed to do in the lab anyway. But the rest of it, the data analysis, the presentation, that you can do outside the class, outside the lab. So actually, there are many things that we can shift outside the classroom or outside the lab. Actually,
Right.
we just have to, and when you shift it, then you have to think about what kind of technology can you use to sort of help you do that.
Right.
At least that is my thought process. To think about, okay, what can be shifted offline, so to speak. What
Right.
can the student do on their own, and that doesn't mean I have less work to do. You have more work to do actually, because you have to plan everything, and then you have to make sure that everything falls into place. But when the student can study on their own, or can do all the stuff offline, the time online can be spent on me helping them personally, on
Right.
giving individual
Yeah.
guidance, which I'm not able to do if I were to give, a
Math.
lecture to what? Yeah, my lecture. So that frees up, I think it frees up our time to focus, to be more present for our students. And, you can cultivate a much more closer relationship with your students, because you really know them. So yeah, it's I find it a very interesting experience, at least for that particular course. Uh, and then let me just finish with this last stage. So for the last stage, you just check your student understanding, and you do some enrichment. The way I use this, I prepare an exit ticket. So in that exit ticket, the student enter their name, and then there's a traffic light. So red, yellow, and green. So the student choose, how are they feeling about the content. If they're okay, then they choose green. If they are not okay, then they choose red. So and then if they have any questions, then they put their questions there, and then I collect the exit ticket at the end of the week, and then I just discuss it the week after. Um, I the exit ticket is this is very useful to me as well, because I think when we teach, we are sort of blind. When we give a lecture, we become blind to our students, in the sense that we 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 see a mass of students rather than the individual students. And sometimes through exit tickets like this, you will know that the student miss out the first part of the lecture. He doesn't understand the first part of the lecture. So uh, this at least the exit ticket to me uh, functions like a pair of eyes and ears for me, to let me know, have I been talking too fast, have I been talking slow, am I talking okay or not, is the level okay or not. So what I did basically in this slide, I just re-examine each stage, and then I try to find a remote alternative for each of the stages. And it looks a bit, it looks detailed, but at least to me, I had to do it like this, because if not, then you'll be bombarded with so many concerns. First, you start thinking about assessment, and then you start thinking, oh, if the student cheat, then macam mana? And then you get sidetracked with all these kind of things. And if you don't have a schema like this, you get bogged down by 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 the problem, and you can't really sort of move forward. So for me, thinking it through like this helped me sort of maintain a kind of equilibrium, so that I know, I have to sort of make sure that at each step along the way, that the students' need are catered for. And actually, if you think about it from the point of view of the student, this is their experience of a class. They enter the class, they want to be engaged, and then they get the content, and then they have practice, and then they have the final examination. I think when we design instruction, we have to think from the point of view of the student, not so much what I want them to know, but what should they know about this topic, and then you sort of reverse engineer that. Okay, I want them to know this. Okay, how can I reverse engineer so that the student will understand that? So that's back. I think they call it backward design. You sort of start from where you want to finish. You sort of so that is that.
That's what Stephen Covey talks about, begin with the end in mind.
Yeah,
So that's
true.
what you're doing too. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so we had a chance to see the mind of a physicist. So this is how a physicist. This is
So
awesome.
this bit here, this was I I prepared this checklist when the faculty started handing out questionnaires to know how many students have internet, don't have internet. So I I I sat down. I sort of write down all the issues that
this is your inventory.
yeah
This is
the
inventory.
because some of my colleagues asked me, what are the issues that we should pay attention to, once you do this remote
Mm,
teaching and learning. And I said, hang on, let us think. Okay, for hardware, you need to make sure all these things are addressed. For the
right.
student themselves, you need to make sure all these things are addressed. For the internet connection, you have to make sure all these things are addressed. For the environment, you have to make sure it's addressed. Even though the student have uh, a laptop or internet, a good internet connection. But if they don't have their own space to do work at home,
Right.
it's not going to. I mean,
The conducive environment is super
yeah.
important. Yeah, I
So,
agree.
I have had students who say that they have to convince their parents. They have to sort of because they are, because I think in that case their parents thought they are they have to convince their parents that they need the time and space to actually do the online learning. Because if not, the parent will tell them to do something, to do chores at home. So, so for that particular student, he had to let his parents know that look, between this time and this time, I need to attend some online learning or some online class.
Basically, he
And
had to educate his parents that he had
yeah,
to learn
yeah,
online at home.
yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
some of them had to, they have siblings and they have to teach their siblings. Um, they have to fight for Wi-Fi with their siblings because their siblings also have to use
Wow.
online learning and stuff. So I think sometimes when we deal with students, we have to remind ourselves that we don't know their whole story.
Right.
We When we teach them in the classroom, let's say we see them, twice a week, 1 hour each. So when the student enter our classroom, let's say between 10 to 11, our class is just one of the many activities that they have to do in one day, right? In the morning, they might have to go to the market, and after our class, they might have to go to the bank, and in the afternoon, they might have to go to pasar malam or whatever.
Right.
So that doesn't mean that we don't ask for integrity from our students, but we just tell ourselves that look, our course is important, but it is not that it might not be the foremost thing on the mind of the student for that day.
Mm.
If the
I
if the
like what you
student,
said earlier. I like what you said earlier. Education runs on trust.
yeah,
And I think that's the fundamental of what you're trying to say. I
yeah,
trust you. You come online, you're going to do all this. You
mm,
trust me because I'm going to provide you the best that
yeah,
I can. And
yeah,
hopefully together we'll be able to make this work.
yeah. I think like you said, Prof. Right, the student have to be empowered. Uh, the student have to realize that at the end of the day, it is they who are learning, and they are in control of their own learning. Uh,
Mm.
it is they who's doing the test. It is they who's reading the material. It is they who's doing the assignments. We are only bystanders, and we can help them the best we can. But ultimately, it is they who needs to type that answer into you can follow. It is they who has to upload that assignment to you can follow. We cannot do that for them.
For them.
Yeah, but I admit that to get the student to reach that level, it is very difficult because our students, I think it is partly maybe our fault in the sense that previously we don't emphasize, we don't teach
Nurture
our
them.
students. Yeah, yeah. I mean, if the student have been going through through their education for 12 years,
Mm.
being taught that okay, if you want to know something, then you go ask your teacher. If you want to know something, then you wait for your teacher.
Yep.
If they've been taught that for the past 12 years, we cannot expect them to suddenly become
Switch.
independent. Yeah, switch.
Yep.
So it's just unfortunate that that switch has to happen at university when we as lecturers we expect them to know that. So you should know how to go to the library and find materials. You should know how to find assessment or assignments to do. Right? But if we just let them be, then the cycle will not end. So we might have to sacrifice some time that we might otherwise use for content delivery to sort of give a kind of motivation, to sort of teach them how to learn, because maybe our students don't really know how to learn. They don't know how to learn face to face. They don't know how to learn, remotely like this. They might be thinking that, well, if previously I just need to attend online class, I have to do assignments, and that's it. If they still have that mindset when they come to remote learning, teaching and learning, they they might find it very very tedious, even more tedious than before, because at least at the university, they still have the physical environment. If you don't attend class, at least you if you happen to meet your lecturer in the hallway, then you feel guilty, and then you have points of contact with the student. But nowadays, even if the student were to skip an online class, who is there to sort of push them? So
Right.
the intrinsic motivation for the student has to be much more, I think.
I agree.
So this is inventory. Um, I just want to just throw some issues that we must ponder. Um, the one of the shortcomings about remote teaching and learning is that we miss this human interaction,
Mm.
especially when you give feedback, and when you give feedback to students, and we don't receive feedback from students juga. Uh, I don't know about other lecturers, but to me, I find teaching through video conference like this very tiring, because if you have 3 hours of lectures, just a colleague of mine said that, sometimes you feel like you are a crazy person, just sitting in front of the screen and talking, and if the students are not listening, you're not sure whether they are listening or not. So um, it is very exhausting mentally and emotionally,
Mm.
to not have that human interaction aspect of teaching and learning. Um, if you have face-to-face interaction, then you can read the body language, you can hear the tone of the voice, you can go out somewhere and have a discussion.
Right.
Now, there are no opportunities for such things. So how do we compensate for this, for this lack of human interaction? Um, I'm not sure, but then I think we have to have a conversation about this. Ini belum cakap pasal, about the mental issues that students are having. This is just the sheer exhaustion of sitting in front of the computer and listening to an online lecture for hours on end. It's just that.
Mm.
So human interaction, and then integrity. How do you make sure that students show up?
Mm.
Um, like some lecturers, they take attendance. I know that they take attendance because they need that for the reporting anyway. Um, but then I asked them. I said that, look, did you take attendance before when you do face-to-face learning? And they said, no, I didn't take attendance. I said that, well, why? If you didn't take attendance before, then why did you suddenly find it to take attendance? Because you see the signal you're sending to the student or not. If face to face, then I'm not going to take your attendance. But somehow when you are not in front of me, somehow I become suspicious whether you are going to show up or not.
Mm.
So I to me, the student should realize that if they miss a lecture, well, they can always watch a recorded lecture.
Right.
So to me personally, it's not that I don't mind them skipping lectures. It's just that I know that, well, if they were to skip lectures, it is not necessarily because they dislike me or because they deliberately skip the lectures. They might have other things happening at home,
Right.
and I don't think I should overburden them by sort of saying, you must attend the lecture, because to me, if they can learn through other means, uh, then so be
Yeah.
it.
Agree.
Um, we are not fighting over who can teach our students test or how to do more. It's just, if you can understand something better by watching a video rather than listening to me talk, then watch the video. And if you still have problem, then I'm still here. You can still ask me. Right? Um, it is important, I think, not to take anything the students do personally. If the student don't submit assignment, it's not because they are lazy. It might not be because they are lazy or because they are careless. It might be because they don't have the internet
Right.
connection. So, and I think it never hurts to sort of give the benefit of the doubt to the student.
Agreed.
And the student will appreciate that from us. How do you guarantee the reliability of assessment? So this is the issue of open book, take home. Um, my view on this is quite simple. To me, if we have planned our lesson properly, I mean, if you have had diagnostic assessment and formative assessment, then you will not be worried. You will not be worried and surprised so much if your student do not perform well for the summative assessment. But then, if you did not give feedback to the student throughout that 14 weeks of lecture, and then suddenly at the end of at the final exam, you are surprised lah. Pelajar ni tak faham pun sebenarnya. Then to me, it is your fault, because what is the point of knowing that the student don't understand something at the end of the semester when they have finished your course, right? You should be giving feedback throughout the course so that the student can improve. If we have designed our assessment in such a way that all the demonstration of mastery occurs only at the end, then we cannot fault ourselves. We cannot blame the student if they cheat, or if they plagiarism, because they I don't think students deliberately choose to do that. I think maybe in their mind, okay, this assignment is too difficult. Okay, let me just copy and paste. Or this assignment, I don't know how to do this assignment. Or for this assignment, the lecturer didn't teach us properly how to do this. Therefore, I'm just going to see what the senior did and copy that. I think if we can close, if we can give regular, constant, and continuous feedback throughout the semester, I think the students are less likely to want to take other people's work and pass it as their own, because we have cultivated their mastery in that particular topic, and they would want to show us how much they have learned, rather than just I'll just copy something, I'll just pass it on as my own work. So I think yeah, maybe copying and cheating is is it it is an indicator of the lack of feedback we are giving to the student.
Right.
That is their default. I mean, what else can they do? Right? If they have to submit something but they have no guidance, they have no idea how to even begin the assignment. Then, and and then we keep telling them, okay, if you don't submit this, then you lose 50% of your final grade. And siapa saja yang takkan,
Right.
who will not take the shortcut in that situation?
Right.
So I'm not saying that it is okay for them to cheat. I'm just saying that, well, if we understand why they behave that way, perhaps we are in a better position to help them, rather than saying, the student is, apalah pelajar sekarang ni nak bohong. Oh, we would not like that. Sometimes we like to be nostalgic about our students. Oh, students during our time, kita dulu tak pun buat macam ni. Kita dulu, tak pun meniru. Kita dulu tak pun berperangan macam tu. But then, you know, we don't get to choose the students that we teach. We get the students that we get, and then you just do your best. Yeah, so that is at least that is my view on the integrity part. I don't worry so much about the take home or open book or closed book, because to me, if I prepared the student well, then they should be able to answer the final assessment. Right? The ability of the student to answer the final assessment is also a reflection of my teaching. If you have half of your class failing that course, then maybe we should rethink. Maybe I've done something wrong in my in my lesson. Then the third thing is about structure. This is what you said earlier about the environment, about time management, when the student should study, um, and the space, where should they study. This bit about when to study, this is quite funny because I think if you were to ask students, do they like online learning? I think some of them will say yes, and then they will say because they don't have to bathe, they don't have to they don't have to go, they don't have to wash up in order to attend class. So that is good, and but of course, if you set a class at night at 8 or 9 a.m. in the morning, and the student is the kind of person who sleeps after Fajr prayer, then of course there will be a problem. But that has always been a problem, even for face-to-face learning. I think sometimes when we try to compare online or face-to-face learning, we need to remember that not all the bad points for online learning is due to online learning. Sometimes the problems are already there to begin with face-to-face learning.
Right.
Students not showing up, students passive in class, students not submitting assignments, students cheating in examination. All that has happened even before we did online learning.
Mm.
So we cannot say online learning is bad because now our students can do all this. Well, our students have been doing that for face-to-face learning, but maybe previously we don't take that too seriously. But somehow or other now when we transition to online learning, that becomes a big deal. That is good in a sense that it forces us to re-examine our assumptions about whether it is okay for students to copy other people's work or not. If we don't take it seriously before, maybe now you should be taking it seriously, and maybe you should have been taking it seriously before.
All along.
Uh, so structure. I think when we talk about expectations between student and teachers, instructors and students, um, there has to be in engineering. There's this notion of impedance matching. Impedance matching means that um, when you construct a circuit, you have to make sure that the source of the circuit matches with the load. As in the energy supplied by the circuit by the battery matches the energy requirement of the circuit. So there has to be a match between the two.
Right.
So if, for instance, we expect students to show up in online class,
Mm.
then you better make sure that the student know that you expect them to show up in online class.
So
You
that's
don't
a metaphor for you.
yeah you don't arbitrarily set up expectations and
Mm.
then you make noise because the student don't show up for class. It is not that it's wrong to i'm I'm not saying that you cannot expect students to show up in class. You can, but
Mm.
make sure you let the student know before before we penalize them or before we say nasty things about them. um, when we talk about impedance matching, about expectations between instructor and student, I think maybe we need a new learning contract between the student and the lecturer. So this is what I just drafted. So maybe for lecturer, we promise that we will prepare and we will make sure the student have access to learning materials. And we promise that we will teach them how to use the learning material. If they don't know how to read a text, I will teach you how to read a text. If you don't know how to, yeah, if you don't know how to convert Word file to PDF, then I will teach you because you need to do that for example or whatever. Right? Then we promise that we will answer your question if you have a question. We promise that we will assess and give feedback for your assignments. Whatever the assignment may take. Right? Previously we give written feedback. Nowadays we can just record our voice commenting on student work and we can just send it to them. Uh, so yeah, and then finally, yeah, we will give feedback on their progress. So maybe these are the things that we must promise our students that we will do.
Mm.
On the student part, then they need to promise that they will endeavor to obtain the learning material. If we say that we are going to upload the material every Sunday, then you better make sure that you
Right.
download it, right?
Right.
You don't uh, you don't wait until the last minute and say that, oh sir, I cannot download the material. And then the student must promise that they will change their attitude. And if before this they they think that learning is just attending class and doing assignments. Now it is more important for them to think that, well, even before attending the class, they have to do their own work, and after class, they have to do their own work.
Mm.
They cannot, if they discover that their learning style, their previous learning style doesn't work with online learning, then they have to be prepared to change that. And we can help them with that. Okay? And then the student must promise that if they have a question or if they have an issue, then please tell us as soon as possible, so that we can remedy them as quickly as possible. I'm not sure about you, Prof. But then from my experience, our students, whenever they want to ask questions, they like to apologize first. Oh, sir, I apologize, for submitting this late, or I apologize for asking this question. I was like, and I keep having to tell my students, no, you don't have to apologize to me. I want you to ask questions. I want you, it is not me you have to sympathize with. It is you,
Mm.
because if you don't submit assignment, you are only harming your own learning. You are not harming me. I will still get paid my salary. I will still, the, the student have to realize that ultimately whatever it is that they don't do will only come back to them. I'm not sure. But our students like to preface their message with apologies. Sir, saya minta maaf tapi saya tak dapat hantar gini. Saya, no, I don't need you to apologize. I need you to submit the assignment, and I can, so that I can tell you
Mm.
what you need to do.
Right.
Um, and then students should promise to prepare to complete their assignment with integrity and regularly. And then finally they
That's
they
your
have
part,
to
huh?
yeah, hang on, hang on. Uh, and then they have to promise that they have they they want they have to rethink why is it that they are studying at university in the first place.
Right.
Uh, Studying at a university is a long-term commitment. I think
Mm.
4 years, 3 years,
Mm.
and with remote learning, with not being at the university, but you are a student, I think it becomes easier for them to lose track of their identity as a student, and they have to be mindful of why they are studying in the first place. Um, I'll just so most of the material just now is maybe about it's a bit theoretical and maybe a bit philosophical. But I think when we want to plan instruction for remote learning, um, the the basic principle is that we don't want to unfairly burden those who don't have internet connection or those with poor internet connection, and this will force us to be creative and adaptive. And I think we need to think of who are the students who are at risk in remote teaching and learning.
Mm.
And to me, those who are at risk are those who are unreachable and those who wait for others to learn. I.e., we have students who they just go through their course at, at a leisurely pace. They sort of wait, or they see what their friend is doing, okay, and then they follow their friend. Um, this is a this is something which I'm still struggling with my students. How to how to you know how to get them to ask questions, to sort of to speak up. Uh, it is still a challenge for me. Right? For my student, I think this is a diagram for one of the briefing that I give to my student. This is for I told them that as far as they are concerned, they have several avenues. There are several tools which they can use to study. They have the textbook, they have the worksheet, they have the lesson plan, they have the quiz, the Telegram group, the Telegram group, and the virtual office hours. So these are the layers of support which my students have. So if they don't find it in a textbook, they can ask me in the Telegram group. If they don't get the question from their peers in Telegram group, they can ask during office hours. So, but ultimately, it is about the student. It's about making sure that the student feel supported. I think. Then. I just want to for physics. I think for us as instructors or for us as lecturers, sometimes when we do remote teaching and learning, uh, we we feel that we are alone. It's very easy to feel that we are alone doing all these kind of things, preparing lessons, and because we don't get to meet our colleagues, we don't get to have the normal interaction that we normally have. And then we we need to know that
Okay.
hang on, hang on.
It's okay. It's okay.
That is one of the challenges of remote teaching and learning. You
My
get disturbed.
my cat is outside meowing.
um, in physics, and I think this applies to other courses as well. In physics, there's a community of physics educators that is doing a lot of that's preparing a lot of resources and doing a lot of work, creating resources that we can do that we can use in our own teaching and learning. So this is just an example of what of some of them. So the point here is that maybe when it comes to remote teaching and learning, we have to talk to our colleagues who are involved in education, in education. So for instance, I'm a physicist, but then if I want to know how best to teach physics, I have to communicate with my friend who's actually doing research in physics education research. So I have to I have I have, I have to read materials from that discipline of physics education research, and I think this is a wonderful opportunity for us to sort of reconnect with our colleagues in the faculty of education because they have experts in physics, mathematics, uh, in geography or history, and they will know what is the best way to teach physics, what's the best way to teach mathematics. Because those of us at the other faculties, we know the content, we know the subject matter, but then we do not know, we are not exposed to the pedagogy, to the to how is it to teach the material. We do not know that we do not know how to deal with student psychology. We do not know how to read students. Right? So we have to remember that we are not alone in this, and it is a good idea to read up on research in education for our respective fields. Maybe for English, then you have a group of researchers or computer researchers who is talking about how best to teach physics, how to best to teach English. So, so this is at least when we read all this kind of material, it will let us know that we don't have to do this alone. Nobody said that we have to do this alone. We can share ideas, we can use other people's templates, other people's material. And what I like the most about some of the sites, say for Facebook, teachers who upload their worksheet that they have prepared for their students, and we can download it and we can use it and modify it for our students. So sometimes we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Oh, we don't have to start from zero. We there are many materials, written materials online, video and animation and effort that we can just take and adapt to our own needs. So a lot of the time is spent on adapting available resources to our needs and not so much to develop new content. Right? So I hang on. Yeah, I think that is I also right. Um, Before I end, let me just show you the worksheet that I prepared for my student. Just to give some just to give some idea of see? There you go. Okay, yes, yes. Okay, so this is the worksheet that I prepared for one of the courses I'm teaching. This is on pengenalan science and physics. So I'm teaching this course along with Dr. Azmin. Dr. Azmin is the pengarah for this course. So yeah, the coordinator. So I have 2 weeks. So what I will share the student at the beginning of each week. So I'll upload this to UCAN Folio on Sunday. So um, if you look at this worksheet, it consists, okay, so this is instruction and then this is the learning outcome, right? And then there are distinct bits, distinct parts where the student can just work through. So this is broker, bincang, then tonton, baca, hasil. So the student can work through each of these one by one. And then if they have a question, then they can raise the matter to me during the during the virtual office hours. So and on top of this worksheet, I've also prepared a voice note. So I record myself sort of explaining each of these kind of things. So okay, bahagian broker, di bahagian ini saya telah menyediakan tonton. So the students, so as they read through the worksheet, they can hear me explaining why they have to do this bit, this bit, this bit. So for the bit on tonton dan baca, I've given them a list of videos which they can watch. I've given them the duration as well, so that they know, so that before they click it, they know, okay, do I have time to watch this video or not? For text, I will let them know which parts they have to read, and then this bit on hasil is the assignment, right? For this assignment, I think I asked them to, to imagine themselves having to proselytize to an alien, so they have to sort of imagine if they can introduce the Islamic civilization to an alien, then what would that be? And they have to record their description in audio and then upload it. So this is the assessment. So
something like TED Ed, the TED Education online, when they have videos and they have like questions, curated questions. That's what you're doing. Brilliant.
So that and then I prepared this in two formats. One, I gave the link, and the other one, I think I upload the PDF because some students might have intermittent internet connection and they might not have access to it all the time. So they can download the whole lot in one shot and they can do it offline, so to speak. And then these are enrichment questions. I mean, if for some reason the student has completed all this and they want more, then these are like advanced, slightly more advanced questions for So this is my way to try to differentiate the instruction for students.
And this is for 1 week's class.
This is for 1 week class, right?
So that means every week you have a worksheet like this for for that group.
So I use Google Docs to do this. So the nice thing is that with Google Docs you can sort of modify. If let's say for next semester I still want to use this, but I think some other people is not okay, then I can just switch it. I can just modify it.
I use Google Form.
Okay.
It's the same for my Chitra course. I use Google Form. Yeah.
It's I think Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Sheets, Google Form. I think these are the things that students should know how to use. And maybe this remote teaching and learning thing is an impetus for them to actually learn to use these tools.
But I like that you tell them the hasil pembelajaran. You tell them that this is what I'm expected to know at the end of this task. This is what I'm expected to understand, know, comprehend, acquire, whatever. So it's I think it's really educational for them to know. This is how the course runs. So brilliant.
I have to teach them actually how to read the hasil pembelajaran because. Because to them they read that outside. Sir, what
does it mean?
What does it mean? So that was one of the things that if previously I would just give it to them and just you pandai-pandai lah baca sendiri. But now I sort of have to let me just explain to you why am I doing this and what I expect to do, and then then we can do. So,
because as lecturers, it took us a while to be able to write that hasil pembelajaran. It's not like immediately we have to whatever we can do that, So
So it will be even more difficult for students to actually understand why is the lecturer putting this at the top. Why how they can use this to to mark the progress of their work.
Right.
So that is that. I
Research
think
your
that is,
findings, right?
yeah. I think hang on. Sure why, because I'm not sure why is it truncated at that date. I think it should be a bit more. Where is it? See.
I can see us collaborating pengajaran with yourself, Imran. I can see pengajaran inviting you for more sessions in the future. I think you have a wealth of experience and passion to empower more of our lecturers. You know, so yeah, I see possibilities, great possibilities, inshallah.
Let me just end because I talked just now about structure. I think there is another slide. I'm not sure why it's not showing. Hang on. Okay, can you see the slide? Okay. I think we stop here,
18,
right?
18.
Yeah. So let me just show. Okay, let me just show the this is the briefing that I gave to my students. So like I said, I just explained to them, how we are going to do this, and then this is the structure that I explained to them. I said that, well, every Sunday I will upload the material, and then we have office hours on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then I will give voice notes on starting on Tuesday, and then they have to submit every the next Sunday. So for every course that I I develop this structure, this learning structure, so that you know so that they know when to submit the assignments, and they know when to check you can follow. So at least there is some structure to their day, at least, because I think we need to remember, before this, their day might be regimented by when they attend classes. But nowadays, with remote teaching and learning, um, what is replacing that structure in their life? And if you don't teach them to have the structure, I think they can drift apart very, very easily, right? So this is the same thing. I think that is all. Yeah. So just some parting thoughts. I think we have to remind ourselves, what is the core of being a good educator. What's the essence of being an educator? I think, of course, we want to impart knowledge, but
The
we
slide's
want
not showing though, Imran.
the slides are showing. I think sorry. I think is it showing? Okay. So we need to remember, what does it mean to be an educator? Is it our job just to transfer that information, or are we doing more than that? Because if our job is just to transfer information, our students have many other avenues, have many other channels to get that same information, and possibly, other lecturers can deliver it in a much more interactive way than we do. So why should our students, join teams and listen to us talk for half an hour? What will they get from a session with us that they will not get from a session with, from watching YouTube videos or doing worksheets?
Right.
And then secondly, I think we have to articulate our expectation of each other, what we expect from our students, and what we expect students to do. Just not the case of showing up for class. If if we think that it is important for us as lecturers to have students show up in class, then let them know. If they still don't show up in class, then there is something else. But then if they don't know that they're supposed to show up, then it is a bit unfair, I think, to be angry or to be upset. Was might argue and say, oh, takkanlah benda tu pun kita nak bagi tahu. Tapi unfortunately, with our students, those are the things that we have to tell them. And rather than choosing to spend our energy being upset why our students are not showing up, I think it's better we just tell them, okay, I want you to show up, and then devote that energy to actually teaching them. You can spend getting worked up with our students' attitude and same energy actually teaching them, and I think it's much more productive to just to use that energy to actually teach them. We know the whole story. our the reasons why our students are not showing up in class. That concern the standard. It's simply that we think when something happens, let's remember that maybe the students are not necessarily doing that to spite, to to hurt. Maybe because and myself having to tell myself this all the time. Students, they are teenagers. They are, uh, they might not know how to manage their time. They might not know how to make life. They know how to how to balance their family life and their student life. And you just you just I think you are in a better position to stay with the student, or the student, or he must hate me, and then it is very easy for that kind of misconception to degenerate into something that is ugly. And then finally, um, teaching remotely it is a learning experience. Nobody expects us to know this right from the start. Um, it's just a matter of whether we think it is worth doing or not. And I think as teachers, we are supposed to model the attitudes that we want to see in our students. If we expect our students to be resourceful, to be resourceful in their learning, then we also must model that resourcefulness in our teaching. We cannot expect students to be resourceful, finding information everywhere. But then when it comes to us, oh, we have to learn how to use, cook, toggle, or have to do how speak fast. Or we say, oh, tak tahu nak guna macam mana. We cannot, you cannot have one set of criteria for our students, but then you yourself, but another set of criteria for us. If you want our students to be resourceful, then we better make sure that we too are resourceful in teaching them. If you want to make our, if you want to make, if you want to, if you want our students to be, be, to enjoy struggle, to enjoy not knowing, then we too must be comfortable in in modeling being vulnerable or being unsure. If not, then because I think the students can see when the lecturer do not do not do what they teach. The students can, I mean,
They can sense it.
they can sense it. Uh, I I I used to tell this story about I tell my colleague. I say that, look, we say that we want our students to be critical thinkers, right? But then look at our exam questions. How many of our exam questions are actually training them to be critical thinkers?
Right.
Because you see, the student, of course, we may tell the student, okay, I want you to be critical, to be a critical thinker. But then when the student look at the assignment or at the exam, and they say, this kind of question, I can just copy and paste from somewhere. The student will know, even though the lecturer says that he wants us to be critical thinkers, but then at the end of the day, the exam that matters only require them to use the lower level of thinking. Then why should they invest
Right.
that energy to do more? Because ultimately the lecturer will just look at the lower level. So we have to model what is it that we want to see in our students, and that requires us to grow as an educator. So um, for the Chinese, the word crisis has two meaning. Crisis it's trouble. It's trouble, but at the same time, crisis is an opportunity. So to me, we should take this situation in which we are in as an opportunity for us to become better teachers, become better educators. Uh, that will only benefit us, and that will only benefit our students. I think we have nothing to lose. We have nothing to lose. I mean, a friend of mine asked, he said that, can we go back to what we did before the PKP. Can we teach in the manner that we have been teaching before? I said that, I don't think we can go back to that. I think we have to chart a new
path
path.
ourselves.
Yeah. So if we are, we don't have to travel that path alone. We have colleagues that can help us. So it is community. It's just not just a community of learners, but a community of teachers, of lecturers, and we owe it to ourselves and owe it to our students to do this. Right. So I'll just end with this quote. This is from Lord of the Rings. I love this quote because this is the part in the movie where Frodo was saying that he doesn't want the ring in the first place, and then Gandalf just said, well, so do I, and so do all who live to see such times, but it is not for them to decide. All you have to decide is what you do with the time that is given to you. So I think with that, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. My God. I feel like you're a kindred spirit, Imran. A lot of the things that you're saying in this session, I shared the same this morning at my own webinar. You talked about empathy. You talked about the importance of not one size fits all, but engaging the learner based on what the learner is capable of and the learner is able to do. You talked about the contract between the lecturer and the learner. And I like a lot of the things that you said. One of the things that I kind of took down was how education runs on trust and how emotion can sabotage learning. I mean, these kinds of thoughts and ideas and philosophies helps us be better educators, not just to impart knowledge, but helps us be better educators. That means helps us grow to become better educators ourselves. So we don't have any time for questions, unfortunately. We've run out of time, but I would like to thank Imran for his time, for his effort. I would like to thank you for a thorough sharing session. And on behalf of Pengajaran, I would like to say thank you so much for making time.
Thank you so much.
And I'd like to thank the participants for making time to attend today's session as well. And we hope that you are successful in completing your PhD and you go on to do great things, and also come back and share your findings and your experiences with Pengajaran. The door is always open for you to come and share your ideas and your thoughts. Just let us know when you want to share your next findings, and we'll be more than ready to organize another session with you. All right.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rai. This this has been a wonderful opportunity. And I'd like to especially thank Dr. Azmin because she was the one who sort of pulled me into this. I would also like to express my appreciation to Dr. Nobaya from physics because um, it is very difficult to find a colleague who is willing to sort of listen to me babble about these kind of things, and to make me much more on my to refine my thinking, to refine my ideas. And Dr. Baya has been very helpful in that. So thank you once again for this opportunity. I enjoyed it very much. I like this conversation that we are having, and I hope we will continue to go on.
Yeah, I would say this as a final thought. I think you're a physicist, but with the heart and spirit of a humanist. So on behalf of the Faculty of Social Science and Humanities, I would like to adopt you as our member. I think you speak very much from that standpoint. So with that, I would like to thank everyone and selamat berpuasa, selamat berbuka dan semoga semua ibadah yang kita lakukan dalam bulan yang mulia ini, termasuk mengajar, termasuk pembelajaran dalam talian dengan pelajar-pelajar kita, seperti Imran sebut tadi, memang lebih banyak lagi tugas kita sekarang bila kita buat pembelajaran dalam talian. Bukan sikit tapi lebih banyak. Tapi semoga semua tu diterima sebagai ibadah daripada kita, dan semoga pelajar kita pun benefit daripada kerja yang kita lakukan di rumah ni tambah kerja lagi ya. Semoga kita dapat barakah, pelajar kita pun dapat barakah insya-Allah. So dengan itu wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih.
Session, and when I asked the lecturers who wanted to do it this way, they said that they use this issue. They said that we are doing this online, this remote learning. Therefore, we don't want to burden the student.
Right.
But I don't get where they are coming from, because we have been using Teams and we have been using. I mean, the technology is there, and I worry that some lecturers, they use this remote teaching and learning, this space we are in, to sort of lower and to sort of loosen the standard. And I feel that we are shortchanging the students. I don't know. I mean, I've been thinking. I mean, the issue was brought up, I think, yesterday or something. So they were discussing how best to proceed. To my mind, I think, of course, we cannot go back to what we did before, but then it's an opportunity to sort of
Try something new.
Try something new. How do you convince people like that? I mean,
Prof.
macam mana
kita buat discussion asing, I think is apa ni, kenapa kita adakan question and answer dengan student.
Ya.
Jadi kalau itu penting, kenapa dalam masa online ni tak perlu ada. Jadi jadi kena, I think
memang kena ada discussion on that lah.
Itulah apa tujuan kita ada discussion dalam face to face itu dan kenapa tidak ada dalam online.
Okay, I think we have to log off now. Aiman, thank you so much. Please
thank you so much, Prof.
Let us know how things are going with you in terms of your studies and all the rest of it. Thank you so much and all the best to you.
Thank you so much.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.